What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're doing an NBA trade machine for John Wall. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials up there, and let's go ahead and get started. Hey, so I did the video the other day talking about how the Rockets are looking for a trade partner in exchange for John Wall, and I basically said in the video, it's incredibly difficult to come up with trades. So I asked you guys for your own, and you guys got creative. I'll give you credit. There's 4-team deals in here, and in what is a very difficult trade situation, you guys managed to come up with some very, very interesting ones. We begin with Taylor. This is a 4-team trade in which the Spurs get Luke Kennard, the Rockets get Bledsoe, Winslow, Zubac, Smith, and Keon Johnson. The Suns get Thaddeus Young, and the Clippers get John Wall and Dario Saric. We're going to start from the bottom up and begin with John Wall. So the Clippers are a relatively obvious landing spot for John Wall because they have the contracts to make it work. They could essentially just flip the Eric Bledsoe thing, and Bledsoe could get traded for like the 5th time this offseason. Wall goes there with Paul George, and then once Kawhi comes back, he helps them in the regular season. It's obviously a very good fit. And they get Dario Saric, who unfortunately might not play this year because of the knee injury that he suffered the year before, but I'm assuming there to make the salary stuff work. Phoenix is interesting here because they're giving up Saric, who again, his ability to play this year is a question mark. And they're giving up Jalen Smith, who was the 10th pick in the draft in 2020, however, was not productive at all, but you could potentially write him off if you wanted to. And Thaddeus Young is a productive player. He's someone that can definitely help this Phoenix roster, someone that provides them even more versatility. And if you're looking at them as a possible contender for this season, Thaddeus Young would be a very nice addition for them. Houston actually gets like way more value than I would have ever thought that they would have in a John Wall trade, but it does make sense. Bledsoe, who is the contract that makes this all work, they could potentially flip him later on as an expiring. Winslow is someone the Clippers literally just signed this offseason, but he could have some upside and potential on a Houston team that's just going to try as many things as they can to try and find some value in younger players. Zubac is a fine, big. Then Smith, the guy that was the 10th pick in the draft a couple years ago, as I mentioned, and then Keon Johnson. And then the Spurs get Luke Kennard. They're basically swapping out Thaddeus Young as an older player for Luke Kennard as a younger player. The problem I have here for San Antonio is, one, they probably would look to get a bit more value out of Thaddeus Young than this if they were to move him. And two, they already have a ton of guards, so I'm not sure that bringing in another younger guard in Luke Kennard, wow, that was a rhyme, is really something that's going to be all that beneficial for them. I could see them doing it, but on paper, when I'm looking at it, that's one of my bigger issues here for San Antonio. So an interesting one, Houston not getting a ton here, but a couple of random younger pieces. And again, in a Wall trade, they can't set their expectations too high in terms of value they're going to get in return. The Clippers fit makes sense. I like Thaddeus Young in Phoenix. And it's just the Spurs thing is a little questionable for me in terms of the value they're getting for Young and the player specifically they're getting back in terms of the fit. But I do appreciate you sending it in, Taylor. Thank you. Next up, Connor. Connor says that the Rockets are going to get Dwight Powell, KP, a 2nd-round pick, and a 1st from Dallas in exchange for John Wall. Okay, so the contracts work here. It's obviously the Mavs are trying to get a perimeter creator in John Wall to go alongside Luka Doncic, take some pressure off of him offensively. They get rid of KP. The Rockets are banking on, 1, this 1st-round pick being something in 2025, but 2, KP developing into something for them and shaking off whatever's been happening to him in Dallas over the last couple of seasons. They take on a contract that is 1 year longer, however, for a younger player that potentially has more potential. That's one way to phrase that, Tuck. And then Dwight Powell, who is basically irrelevant here. He is just a contract to make this work. There's 1,000 different ways you can look at this. I think there's about 10 different ways that each of these teams say no to this, but on paper, it does make a little bit of sense. So as I said, the Mavericks get that offensive perimeter creator alongside Luka that we mentioned. It's just, this is the problem with John Wall, man. Like, this is why it's harder to trade him than it was to trade someone like Kemba. Granted, Kemba was traded in the salary dump, but if you can't shoot the ball and you're going to a team that already has perimeter creation, which pretty much every team in the league already does, it's just so difficult for you to fit alongside someone like Luka if you're not going to space the floor. And we've got no indication from John Wall throughout the entirety of his career, and especially since he returned from his Achilles injury, that he is going to be able to space the floor. And so for that reason, the fit is just not great here. However, it's not like KP was spacing the floor super well last year either. Now, granted, he at least is a bigger body, fits a little bit better on the roster as a big man. I don't know who Dallas's big man is now going to be after getting rid of Powell and Porzingis. They'll have to figure that part out. And they're giving up a pick just to, like, I find it hard to believe that Dallas would look at this and be like, yeah, we'll also give you a 1st-round pick. But for Houston, they also might say no to this because it's a year longer of a bigger contract. Yes, you get out of $10 million when you normally would have for the Wall thing, and then KP's contract runs a year longer. Maybe Houston thinks that they can rehabilitate KP, him, Christian Wood, Jalen Green, Eric Gordon. Maybe you're starting to look at something there. But they've already got a ton of young guys. Like, they've got Sengun. They've already got some big guys they want to play. I'm not sure KP actually provides them all that much value. I honestly think both teams say no to this, but I do appreciate you sending it in, Connor, because I do think that it's interesting. Houston probably looks at this longer than Dallas does, though. They probably are closer to saying yes than Dallas is. Next up, random Clippers fan, another Clippers trade. Again, the Clippers are a team that's going to continue to be brought up here because they are the team that makes the most sense on paper. The Clippers get John Wall. The Rockets get Bledsoe, Zubac, and Kennard. It's a variation of the trade that we saw earlier. It potentially works better, though, because, again, Kennard going to San Antonio doesn't make a ton of sense. The Rockets go into next year, and they've dumped Wall. Bledsoe's contract is smaller. Zubac can help them at the 5 spot. Kennard can potentially be a relatively significant long-term piece for them. Nothing crazy, but someone that can at least space the floor and shoot alongside Jalen Green. I won't spend too much time on this. I do appreciate you sending it in. It's essentially a variation of that Clippers trade earlier. I just wanted to include it, again, to emphasize the possibility of Clippers trades here. And then we have our kind of obligatory at this point Ben Simmons trade. Elliot sends this one in. And it's actually really, really interesting because the Rockets aren't the one getting Ben Simmons here. The Sixers get Wall and Kevin Porter Jr. I can hear Rockets Twitter screaming right now. The Mavs get Ben Simmons, and the Rockets get KP, Tybal, Maxey, and 2 firsts. Okay. My initial reaction is that Philly has given up too much. No disrespect to whoever sent the trade in. I know that Ben Simmons' trade value has gone down, but I don't think it's gone down to the point where it's Simmons, Maxey, Tybal, and 2 firsts just to get John Wall. I don't think that's where it's at, okay? However, you could make the case that Wall and Embiid is a pretty interesting combination, and then you're getting Kevin Porter Jr. You still got Tobias Harris. Maybe all you need is just to shuffle some things up. But again, the floor spacing thing is an issue for Wall. I don't think that there's any scenario in which Philly makes this trade as currently constructed and or makes a trade that involves a Ben Simmons for John Wall swap unless they're getting significant other assets in addition to John Wall, because I just don't think that the fit is that clean. And you just don't know that John Wall is that good of an NBA player anymore. And I know that Simmons doesn't want to be there, and the leverage for Philadelphia is very odd. I get that. I just can't see this one happening from Philly's perspective. But let's look at the other teams. For Houston, if I get this trade package, I'm running to the league office to accept this trade. I'm not even calling it in. I'm just going for a jog and telling the league office, hey, I want to accept this deal. Porzingis, we talked about the fit with that earlier. Tybal, Maxey, and 2 firsts sign me up in exchange for John Wall. And then the Mavericks fit of Ben Simmons. A Ben Simmons for KP swap straight up. If I'm Dallas, I'm 100% doing that. I know people are down on Simmons. He's still one of the best defenders in the league. He's still someone that would be an awesome pick and roll partner with Luka. I love that fit. If I could make that happen today, I absolutely would do it. Of course, the problem is, though, when you're looking at Ben Simmons and KP swap directly to Philly, there is not a fit there between Porzingis and Embiid, especially with the way we've seen Porzingis struggle to space the floor over the last couple of seasons. So I include this, Elliot, not to say that this trade is awful, not to make fun of you. That's not me. I'm just pointing out that as currently constructed, it doesn't really, really work. But if you wanted to change this around to where Philly gets more assets, because I think Dallas is happy here. They'll do the KP for Simmons thing. And I don't think Houston needs nearly as much in return as they're getting here. I think that Philly needs more assets, and this is a structure that I could see potentially working. It's just an odd situation with Wall, with Simmons, with KP, when you're including all these different contracts. There were some Kevin Love trades that were sent my way as well that I didn't include in the video. Lots of moving pieces, lots of moving parts when it comes to a John Wall trade. And I just want to say, I really appreciate you guys sending in the ones that you did. It's not easy. I did my best to make my own as well, and I basically just ended up with dumping him to OKC or trying to figure out some way that a Kevin Love swap works. So getting a little bit more creative with these couple of trades, something that I really, really appreciate. I'm not ruling out some more John Wall trade content, by the way. If you guys want to leave some more trades down in the comment section below, I'll absolutely take a look at them. And again, I appreciate you guys sending these in. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on the screen. Check out my socials at the top of the screen as well. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.